Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, August 6th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And here we are, Coach, the final Olympic basketball podcast. We're down to the final four. We've got the gold medal game and the bronze game. U.S. is involved here. Your man Luca will be in not the nightcap, but the morning cap, 7 a.m. But some exciting stuff here. 2-game slate to wrap it up. Are you ready?
I'm completely ready. This has been a real fun Olympics, and we had a nice, successful night/morning, however you want to describe the way these games play out, but very successful. Happy for our members. We had a lot of really strong wins, and now we want to finish up, with a flurry here on these last 2 games that really are everything to do with the medal. What medal are you going to get? And somebody, unfortunately, is going to come out with no medal. So this is a big set of games. Can't wait to just crush it again. And then the awesome thing, Andrew, boom, we go right into the NBA Summer League. I mean, this is like basketball heaven. So I love it. And definitely join us for that as well, because we're covering it all. DFS is going to have contests. We're all over that. We're going to be doing as regular podcasting, posting, everything that we normally do. So if you want to jump in with us, it's dfscoachtalk.com. You can join with several of our packages. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, we're going to jump in right this second, but hit that thumbs up, please. Subscribe, hit the little alert in the upper corner, because with all these different timings and things going on with our podcast, we've got, like we said, today we finish up the Olympics. We've got NBA Summer League, which is going to be phenomenal. We got tons of baseball going on. We're starting some short pods for baseball, then right into football. So we'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, speaking of football, I watched the preseason game last night, and got the juices flowing again, Coach. I can't wait for football, but we need to finish strong here in basketball. And yes, the U.S. squad, speaking of medals here, this is their chance at redemption against France, Coach. And they're 12.5-point favorites, total of 175.5. And just to give the quick overview, game 2, Australia, Slovenia, the total's a little bit higher, 181.5, with a closer spread, Slovenia favored by 2.5. So let's start with your thoughts on the U.S. as a big favorite here. Can they get some revenge against France and bring home the gold?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give those guys credit, and Pop as well. I mean, they pulled it back together. It was looking dim there for a while, and here they are. They're on the precipice of another gold, and it can't be any sweeter. I mean, if you're the coach, you would think some people would want to avoid the team that beat you because, they obviously have your number, whatever it is, but not in this instance. I guarantee you, from the coaching staff to each player, the fact that they would be able to beat France, who beat them in that pool play, to win the gold would make it triply as sweet. So I have to say, though, I know that, they try to set those lines in Vegas knowing that the USA is going to get way over bet in every scenario. But I don't know. Were you a little surprised that the U.S. got beat the way they did just a matter of like 10 days ago or what less? And now they're 12.5-point favorites.
That is a premium that you're going to have to pay if you want to invest on the U.S. side. It's a tough spread, maybe one to stay away from. I don't think I would bet on France. You could go U.S. on the money line because I do think they'll end up with a W.
Yeah, I love the U.S.'s chances as well. I mean, we know France plays good D, and they're crafty, and they have some guys that can step up. But the way that the U.S. has been putting it together here in this week, I think they're in pretty good shape. But the key factor now for Team US is, where are we going to look DFS-wise? What makes the most sense here? Is the auto button, and I'll be happy to go through the US, but I'd love to get your feedback, because it really has, this question has everything to do with the slate. Is Durant 100% plug and play, cash and GPPs, got to be in the lineup?
If I have to pick yes or no, I'll pick yes.
Okay. And is there anybody else in these 4 games that you would value as a higher, more important 100% roster spot than KD?
Another good question. If I had to go yes or no, I would go no. I value him the most, but there are a couple value plays that I really like.
Yeah.
That I want to lock in.
Right.
But KD has been on such a mission, and we'll talk about his defensive matchup. I mean, I think Batum will give him some trouble, and it won't be easy for him. But he has really put this team on his back. He's playing great. He's getting stocks every single game because he's so invested, playing the most minutes, playing hard. He wants this. So I do not want to fade him.
Well, I agree with you on both of those. And I want to put you on the spot a little bit just because I want to get your true reaction, because I've thought about this a lot, and I'm with you. I think, we're always looking for the best way to finagle things and, get some kind of medium bills where we're not going to have any low numbers. But for me, I agree with you, Andrew. I think you look at his usage, and again, we've talked about this somewhat, but it's not close. I mean, he got 19 shots again, and we have one guy with 6, with 4, with 9, with 10. He's getting the usage. He's grabbing those rebounds. He's getting the stocks. He's the only guy getting even close to over 30 minutes. Drew Holiday's gaining a little bit more and more, but it's all about Durant. So as far as the Team USA goes, I think you just start with him. And you're going to have to find a few value plays. We could talk about some of those as we go. For me, the second guy I'm looking at is the guy that really led my squad to victory this last go around, in my opinion, and that was Devin Booker. I think his confidence level, I think he had the most fatigue and drain of the disappointment of losing the NBA championship, the travel. It was all new to him. And I think it took him a while. But now, 7 for 10 from the field, it's fantastic. 3 for 5 from 3, 3 for 3 from the line in this last game. A really strong contribution of 20 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal, even a block. So I'm on the Devin Booker bandwagon. I think he's showing a lot of improvement. The other guy I'll mention, who I think is going to get a monster amount of ownership, is certainly Drew Holiday. He's been, other than Durant, probably the most consistent player in these games all across the board. I mean, 11, 8, and 8, testing a triple-double this last game with 28 minutes. Absolutely have to give him a second look. So for me, Andrew, on this team, I don't have a super value play, but Durant's an automatic. The second 2 guys, which you can't afford both, but lean towards Booker with a little sprinkle of Drew Holiday in there is really where I want to go. I was stunned, and I'll say this last thing and get your reaction. I was shocked that Bam only played 13 minutes the last game. And that, he was always a secondary option in my mind as a possible play, but that's gone because they're utilizing different lineups, playing small ball, and, the Levines and the Middletons, those guys Draymonds are getting minutes. And I think that'll be the same type of situation going into this game against France, because they're certainly not going to employ the same strategy and lineups and minutes that they did in that loss. So the shakeup there with the addition of, the 3 guys that came over from the championship series, I think is going to have an impact here. And that's why I like Team US.
Yeah. So I agree. KD number 1, next options are Booker and Holiday. Booker just a much better price on DraftKings. That 1,300 is huge. The first lineup I built, I was 300 short on Drew Holiday. So I was disappointed because I would love to get him in there. He's been very balanced, involved, big minutes. He's taken a step ahead of Lillard just in terms of overall fantasy point production.
Oh, big time.
And Lillard's still more expensive. So on the main slate, those 3 guys are my favorites. I will say about Bam, just looking back in that game against France, he did play 25 minutes. Like you said, last game, big disappointment, and he has been underwhelming here recently. but I think this is a chance for him to get some more minutes to try to deal with Gobert. At 6,400, he's playable for me. But with the bench, I just don't think I will go there on the main slate with the key Americans with this recent 9-man rotation with Levine, Middleton, Tatum, and Draymond. Any of them could play well here and be solid, but a little too expensive for me. So I'm looking really at those 4 starters other than Lillard as potential plays.
I agree completely, and I do think the U.S. remains overpriced for those mid-level guys.
Yeah, they do. All right, let's talk about France with an incredible 1-point victory over Slovenia. What a block by Batum to finish it out and avoid the foul. That was a work of art, just amazing. His 4th block of the game, very critical piece of their team, 33 minutes. And we talked about if he regressed to half of his production from the game before, he'd still be a valuable play. And that's what happened approximately. And here he is again at 6,100 as a small forward. He's one of my key value plays again. He's not a big scorer. He'll hit the corner 3, but with everything else that he gets, I like him as an option here. I do think he'll spend time on Durant, and I do think that can limit him a little bit. But I think all things considered, he's gonna be in my lineup.
Okay.
With the rest of the French starters, let's start with Fournier because he was really the key man offensively when France beat US the first time around. Drew Holiday was coming off the bench in that one. I think he'll get the start against Fournier. I think he'll make life very difficult for him. And I think Fournier is looking like a fade for me right now. He's the type of guy who will obviously spot up on the wing. He'll also penetrate from the wing and he'll get into the paint. But he's not as much of a, start at the top of the key, pick and roll with Gobert and get on to a bigger defender. They just don't use him as much like that. They like to run that pick and roll with DeColo and Gobert.
Right.
The point is, I think Drew Holiday will have an easier time sticking with him throughout possession. So I'm planning to fade Fournier. If I was going to go with a French guard, it would be DeColo. I really liked how he looked in that last game.
Yeah.
Aggressive, getting his shot, getting to the paint. I don't think he'll go for 25, 7, and 5, Coach. He's playable at 8,000. It's a little pricey. We still have Ertl coming off the bench as a nice option at 4,700, the backup point guard. His minutes were down a little bit in the last one at 14. But if you want to get KD and possibly Luka, you're going to have to look at guys like that. And I think he's pretty solid. Gobert, 8,400, a little bit steep for me. Playable, but not my favorite. TLC, we got to talk about him. 4,800 as a shooting guard. He had a good game last time, 22 minutes. And here's the thing. France was, they went a little bit smaller against Slovenia, where Yabusele didn't get as much playing time in the second half.
Right.
And they had a lot of, 3 or 4 guard lineups with TLC out there. So I think his minutes are pretty solid. We know that he's very volatile in terms of his production. But I'm interested in him as a possible value play. And then Fall, backing up Rudy, is another punt play option, 3,400. If you want to go there for a value play, he's not big on production, but he's talented enough to give you 10 to 15 fantasy points. So he's playable for me. But I guess the key thing is planning to fade Fournier. What do you think about that? Do you agree that Holiday will make life difficult for him, or do you think he'll just get enough volume to be a guy that you want to have in your lineup?
Well, the interesting thing for me is I have not rostered Fournier once in these Olympics. And yeah, he's made me pay the price a few times, and he's had a really good Olympics. I don't like him at all here. And, if that comes back to bite us, it bites us. But, we don't come on here. People don't listen to us to give the 3 top scorers for all the teams. You can look at the box score and do that yourself. But there are multiple reasons that I want to fade Fournier. Number one, watching him throughout his career, he has good games, but a lot of the time it's games that they're way ahead or way behind, or it's just he's not a closeout, down to the wire, game on the line player that I've seen come through all the time. So again, no disrespect, because he's a fantastic shooter. Secondly, he beat the U.S. last time pretty much on his own shoulders. There's no doubt that challenge is going to be thrown to Drew Holiday, starting and playing against him. It's going to limit his attempts, his percentages. I mean, he got 16 shots up again this last game and made half of them. I just think that decreases. I think that, the U.S. game plan isn't going to be as much about the paint. It's going to be Fournier, the perimeter, taking away that three. And I think, in my opinion, he regresses enough to be a good fade. I don't think he's going to have a terrible game, but I think that there's going to be regression. So I'm with you. That could be somewhat contrarian, because he has scored and got minutes and hurt the U.S. On other occasions. I just think it's a smart fade at his price, and I think there's other places you can go. I've been a DeColo guy all along since the last Olympics. I think he's a courageous player. 32 minutes the last go around. He's a difference maker for them on the floor. He's a leader. He's just plays so hard on both ends of the floor. And then there's old Rudy. I mean, I was tooting Rudy's horn, tooting Rudy. I said, I think he'll get 10 and 15 rebounds. He got 9 and 16. So I'll take that. And you can go back and listen, because I'm not lying. I said 4 or 5 blocks, and he got 4. So that's the kind of game that you expect from Rudy. And that's the kind of game, that really helps get the deal done. And I think the lack of a true defensive center for the Americans, I think Rudy's going to have a good game again. Now, here's the concern I have. The reason he's not going to be in all my lineups, I like him. He's going to be in my second lineup. He's expensive. But I do think I want to have him in one lineup, because the rotation now with this lesser minutes for Bam and the state U.S. going smaller, I think you're going to see him able, just on size alone, if Durant's at center for that shift or whatever the case is, I think he's going to get that extra 4 or 5 rebounds because of that. So I think he's very, very good play, but not 100% necessity. But I really like him again, similar to exactly what I said last go around. I think Yabusele at that price, you got to have a flyer. You got at least one if you want the Durant and a few guys like that in there. And anytime a guy gets 25 minutes, he's active. He can finish baskets and he can get some rebounds. He's in play for me. I agree with you on Batum. I think he's going to get a lot of ownership. I think he's a dangerous player. I just, my only hesitation there, and why he's not a lock and load for me, is, we do know he can have, it wasn't a fluke. He can easily have games like this last one where he goes 1 for 5 and has 3 points. And we talked, you mentioned it. We talked about the last time. Even if his points regress a little bit, his ancillary numbers will lift him up. Well, you know what? They did, but it's a dangerous game to play of, okay, maybe he gets 5 to 7 points, but we know he's going to follow up again with 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks, 1 steal, on and on. Yes, he has the capacity to do that, but periphery stats like that have to do a lot of times with being in the right place at the right time. There is a variance there that, you happen to be in the rotation to guard the guy in the corner, and when the threes go up and you're in the paint there to grab the rebound. So, I think he'll be in plenty of situations where he can get the rebound, get a block, do those kind of things. But to put full in on that, when you're talking about, I call it the Draymond factor in the regular season of the NBA. Sometimes you can take Draymond, he can have 0 points and make value for you. So it's great, but there are also times where you take Draymond and he has 2 points and those periphery stats are not there and you're dead. So it's a gamble a little bit, in my opinion. I like him. I like his price. I think he can be considered. I like the fact that TLC is trending up 10 shots, 3 for 4 from 3. I've always liked TLC. I've always feared he doesn't get enough minutes. So a possibility there, because if he's over that 20-minute mark at his price, he's not a bad rosterable guy at all. But for me, it's really DeColo, a huge value opportunity, and Yabusele. And I still want some Gobert in my life with this, ability to do some damage in the paint.
Yeah, well said. And I like the comparison with Batum and Draymond with the peripheral stats. The one thing I'll say is Draymond really doesn't like to shoot it often. There was that one possession in the middle round where he got the ball in the paint. He had a wide open layup and he kicked it out.
I know.
Batum will at least take the layups.
Yeah.
And he'll hit some of his threes. Draymond usually doesn't hit his threes, but I agree that the risk is there that he just doesn't. He's not in the right place at the right time for those stocks. All right, Coach, let's go to game 2. It's Australia and Slovenia, 7 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, 181.5 the total. Slovenia favored by 2.5. Why don't you start us out with the Australian side?
Yeah, I mean, what's the big thing here for me? I believe that you're going to have 2 aspects here. Number one, Australia plays phenomenally hard, and you can't get much more motivated in a game to say you either get a medal or you get nothing. And so that is the thing. How much do you have to motivate a guy? You want to leave here empty-handed? So that motivation factor is in there. But I think that the deeper-seated problem for them in this game, they've got some veterans that this is not their 5th rodeo, let alone 1st rodeo, and losing to the Americans by basically 20 points after having such success against them, I think is going to mess with their psyche a little bit. I think they're going to be a little down in the dumps. I personally think Slovenia wins this game because I think being the fact Slovenia has never gotten an Olympic medal in basketball, Australia's been there, done that, silvers, bronzes, etc. I think that the advantage psychologically, and whenever you have a consolation game, and I watched this specifically in AAU basketball when I was coaching, it's interesting to see when you'll have, maybe the 2 top teams playing in the semis, the brackets work out that way, and the other 2 teams are not as good. It just seems constantly when they're playing for that 3rd place spot, the team that lost to the great team to go to the finals lays an egg. I mean, it happens all the time. And no matter as a coach, I've even had my team do that. As a coach, you're telling them that, but what you're telling somebody and what's in their brain are 2 different things. So I'm going to be sort of soft on Australia here. I'm going to stack up a few Slovenians because I think their minutes will shrink a little. They really, really want to get the first medal for their country. And they had won 17 in a row with Luka on the floor going into this last game that they lost. So for all those reasons, and again, it's without talking about a single player, is what's the mentality and how is this going to come in here? Patty Mills is too expensive now for me on this type of a slate. Joe Ingles has been, very mundane for his price throughout the Olympics. Again, 9, 2, and 2. I mean, that's not going to get you anywhere near value. The guys like Delhi and Sobi and, all these guys just aren't strong enough. There's 4 guys, and it's going to sound like a broken record from earlier, but for me, I was surprised Golden played as much. He did in the last Olympics. He was okay. But the guys that I'm looking at here are very similar. I think Thibault has to get at least a look. Another disappointing performance from him. He's not scoring, not getting quite enough minutes, but I still think he's playable. Same thing with Dante Exum. Didn't blow the roof off, but the potential's there for him to do well. But that being said, the only 2 guys that I have a beeline for that I really want to get involved here are the same 2, Landell and Kay. I think when Baines went down in that prelim game against the U.S. And pretty much Australia has laid it out there. It's like Landell and Kay are getting a lot of action in the paint. They're getting a lot of putbacks. They're getting a lot of, you're allowed to offensive goaltend. They're getting a lot of those in there. And I just think those guys are steady. I think this is a good matchup for them. I think that at times Slovenia has shown some holes in their interior defense. So, again, I'll probably one-off this game, or maybe just slight chance of two. But the only guys I'm looking at are Group A, Landale and K, and Group B, Thibault and Exum.
Yeah, I like your description there of the mentality, and it's a tough position for Australia because they got punched in the gut by the U.S. and the way they lost, being up big in the first half and then getting blown out, that is a lot to recover from. So they've got to be questioning, if they have what it takes. And so I agree. I don't want to pay up for Mills or Ingles. Landell is my favorite here. 5,500 is a nice price for this value option. K, I don't like him as much because he's more expensive and he's not quite as athletic. We saw that in the last game. But he could be more effective here against Slovenia. I think it's a better matchup for him. With the bench, Thibault, I think, like you said, he's worth considering. A little pricey, probably. Exum more likely to make it for me just because of his price and the fact he's a shooting guard. And then Golding really came out of nowhere with those 19 minutes, stats across the board. His scoring was mostly from his threes, but nice stats otherwise. So at 3,500, he's definitely in the mix for me.
Okay.
All right, Coach. On the Slovenian side, I'll just go ahead and start with Mr. Dragic. Got to wear this one because I recommended him, and it did not work out. And it's like I said to one of our members, it was a horrible game for Dragic. I don't think it was a bad play. He played, he had 29 minutes the game before, and he had 48.5 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And for his price, I think it was a fine play. It just didn't work out. He had everything go against him where he fouled at a three-point shooter early. Then he got fouled on a three, but only made one of the free throws. then he had that play where he was running over the opponent, and they were reviewing it for whether it was an intentional foul. He just wasn't in it. And so the coaching staff recognized that, and they give big minutes to Blazic and Prepelic. So that's the thing. Some of these teams we've talked about throughout the playoffs, they'll change the starting lineup at the second half. They'll go with who's hot. That was not his day. So could he come back and turn it around? Absolutely. Am I hesitant to play him? Absolutely. So that's the story on Dragic. Luka and Toby, what a nice combo they had. That was the other thing. Luka and Toby just ran the two-man game.
They did.
Most of the possessions. So the perimeter, the alternative options, they just weren't getting involved, getting as many shots. Luka and Toby, in that first quarter were awesome. And then, Luka kind of slowed down in terms of scoring. He kept getting dinged up with various injuries, the shoulder, the wrist. But to finish with a triple-double and 18 assists, there's Luka for you. Tremendous.
Yeah.
And I think he's playable here. Like you said, they really want this medal. 13.5 is a lot. But there is a way to get him in. I'm kind of leaning towards him as a second lineup, a GPP, not the first lineup. And if you do go with Luka, you could pair him up with Toby because of that synergy. He loves to play the two-man game with Toby, and Landau, is athletic enough to stay with Toby, but Toby has a little bit of size and strength on him. So I think Toby can put up a decent performance. The 8,900 though is tough. So again, he's not my first option. The other starters for Slovenia, Blazic, Čančar, a little bit pricey for me. Decent players, but I'd rather, for example, go with Booker right in that price range at 72. And then Prepelic, definitely like his game. Also, he's a scorer, but he's been priced up to 7,000, which is tough.
Yeah. Jeez.
So Bottom line is nobody for Slovenia is locked in for me, Coach. But Luka, I'm thinking about him as a potential GPP option. What are your thoughts on the Slovenian side?
Well, Slovenia is my favorite team of the four for this card, and probably going to be very contrarian position. For all the reasons I stated before, the shorter bench, the chance to get the first medal ever for their country in basketball on down the line. I think they're going to be hungry, and they're a fiery bunch. I'm going to probably have like 3 guys from this game, but I'm with you. I think it is necessary under the circumstances to build a couple of lineups, and I'm going to do that. Normally, if you listen to us often, you know that I try to roll with one lineup. When I feel it's a situation like this, I will play a second, rarely a third. But, I want to go little stack here with Slovenia, and you can't stack. I mean, let's face the facts. Andrew, can I please stack Doncic, Toby, and Chanchar? Yeah, good luck. Then you have you have to take a loan out for that one. But so the realistic thing in my stack is my 2 bills. I want to go Luka and 2 of the more affordable guys on this roster, whether it be Blazic, again, Prepelic has come up a little bit. There's different ways you can go. But I'd go that way with Luka and 2 of the bench guys that I do think will get over 20 minutes. Or take the other approach. Then you can grab a Toby, a Chanchar, and then one of the cheaper guys like a Blazic. So, or even a Dimic, whatever. One of those guys I think you're going to have to pay down for a little bit. So I think that group of 7-8 players will get decent minutes. I think it's a good matchup. I think they're going to catch a team that's just still feeling, like you said, punched in the gut. And I think it's a great place to go. I mean, Toby did those numbers 23, 8, and 2 against the Defensive Player of the Year back to back. So, that's my point. Is if he's going to do that there, what can you bring forward in this game when you have, Baines being out, 2 guys splitting minutes at the center? There's going to be some continuity there that he's going to get some more opportunities, I think, than he has in the last couple of games, and his numbers are still good. So, I'm really enjoying a lot of Slovenia. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, Zoran. What do you do with Zoran Dragic? 2 games ago, breaks slate, wins it for you. Last game, breaks something else, as in your heart, and kills you. So, what happens here? I mean, I would love to be courageous here and take him, because I do think he'll bounce back. I think the team, they'll pick him up. He'll get some minutes, but the risk is very simple. If he starts out with another brain dead game at the beginning and starts slumping, they're just going to fire in Prepelic and these guys that are going to take those minutes. So there's a massive risk there. I don't think he'll have, per se, the game that he had 2 games ago when he broke the slate, but I think he can be a nice player to take in a build that you're going to get incredibly low owned, because I think people are going to dive off him like they jumped off the Titanic. So, Zoran I don't quite have the courage for that, but I wouldn't blame somebody for wanting to give it a shot. And if you're playing a GPP build and you want to try to take something big down, he could be a key kind of guy, because if he makes value and you have that edge where most people didn't roster him, he can bring you home. So you will see Team Slovenia and representation from top to bottom for me. I think this is going to be a good game for them. And remember, their games have been pretty high scoring. They get up and down, and I think this will fall right into that.
Excellent. Well, if you want to see the final lineups across the board for us, we'll give out full lineups on FanDuel, cash lineup, GPP lineup for the single game slate with US and France. And then we'll give out our clipboard on DraftKings for the 2-game slate. So dfscoachtalk.com if you'd like to join us. And then after you join, we will send you an email, get you into our Discord, and then you get access to all of our sports, of course. So tonight being Friday, you will have baseball lineups and weekend golf to play as well, Coach.
I'm fired up. Yeah, whenever we do this Friday pod, I say it all the time. I think the best day to jump on for our 3-day pass is Fridays, because for here you get the Olympic basketball medal round. I mean, what's better than that? You're getting that weekend golf, which they have great contests. We're all over those. And then all the baseball. I mean, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the different times. Basically, between those 3, and again, anytime you sign up for anything at Coach Talk, the 3-day pass, whatever, you get everything we've got. Every lineup, every sport, everything listed in Discord, every podcast, everything we have content-wise at all, you're getting. So bang for your buck. Fridays are a great day. Just jump in there, click the button at dfscoachtalk.com, and we'll throw you right into Discord so you can start discussing all of that, because you're going to see quite a few lineup posts with all 3 of those sports posting tonight. So jump aboard. We'd love to have you. And we're getting hot. And the next time I jump back on this weekend I'll be back in Texas, and it will be NBA Summer League. So we got everything going, and we'd love to have you. And we appreciate you listening in to us for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have any questions, you can find us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. You can find the coach at JOESARVADI. You can find me at Language Olympic. And do subscribe to the channel, please, if on the way out. If you haven't already on YouTube, hit that alert button so you know when these podcasts are going to post. And that will do it for today. So on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.